Arrested and charged with capital murder following a shooting early this morning. WAFF 48's Daquan Lee joins us live in Athens in front of the home where police officers say today's shooting happened. Daquan, you've learned a woman was killed in what police are now calling a domestic dispute.
What if the justice system that was meant to protect you ended up signing your death warrant? What if the man you tried to escape from was set free, just in time to kill you? This is the heartbreaking and terrifying story of Alexis Garth, a young mother of two who had a plan to leave her abusive relationship. But just 10 days after her abuser was released early from prison, she was dead. Alexis Garth was 26 years old, a mother of two beautiful daughters, and full of life. She had just bought her first home in Athens, Alabama, in 2022. Her family described her as loving, ambitious, and determined. But behind her bright smile was a dark reality. She was trying to escape. She was in an abusive relationship with Kaiwan Yarbrough, a 20-year-old man with a violent past. What she didn't know was that her time was running out. Kaiwan was no stranger to violence. In 2019, he was convicted for a shooting involving 3 juveniles. He received a suspended sentence and probation, but when he committed more crimes, his probation was revoked and he was sent to prison. His scheduled release was supposed to be in May 2023, but due to a controversial mandatory release program, he was set free on December 2nd, 2022, a full 5 months early. No one warned Alexis. New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2022, Alexis visited her mother and then went out with friends in Huntsville. She didn't know it would be her last night alive. Kaiwan insisted on driving her back home. Somewhere along the way, things turned deadly. January 1st, 2023, her lifeless body was found in front of her 2 little daughters. She had been shot multiple times, murdered by the very man who had just been given his freedom. The same system that should have protected her released her killer back into her life. Why was Kaiwan released early despite his violent history? Why wasn't Alexis warned or protected? How many more victims will suffer because of a failed system? Her family is now speaking out, demanding justice and calling for stronger protections for domestic violence survivors. Before we begin, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? What are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Because your voice matters. These are real lives, real tragedies, and real lessons that we can't afford to ignore. Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we uncover the stories that lurk in the shadows, the crimes that shake communities, the betrayals no one saw coming, and the horrifying truths hidden behind closed doors. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the twists, the revelations, and the chilling reality of the cases we bring to you every day. Now, let's begin. Born on August 11th, 1996, in Belmina, Alabama, Alexis Garth was known for her wide, pretty smile and sweet demeanor. She pursued higher education at Calhoun Community College, balancing her studies with her role as a devoted mother to 2 young daughters, aged 3 years and 8 months. In 2022, Alexis achieved a significant milestone by purchasing a new home in Athens, Alabama, symbolizing her dedication to providing a stable and loving environment for her children. How does a vibrant young mother's life end in such tragedy? What systemic failures contribute to such irreversible outcomes? The story of Alexis Garth, a 26-year-old mother from Athens, Alabama, compels us to confront these harrowing questions. Alexis's life took a tumultuous turn when she became involved with Kaiwan Yarbrough, a man with a troubled past. In 2019, at the age of 16, Yarbrough was convicted as a youthful offender for a shooting incident involving 3 juveniles. He received a 36-month suspended sentence and 24 months of probation. However, during his probation, he committed new criminal offenses, leading to the revocation of his probation and an order to serve the remainder of his sentence in a state penitentiary, set to end in May 2023. Despite this, Yarbrough was granted a mandatory release by the Alabama Department of Corrections on December 2nd, 2022, allowing him to return to Athens under supervision. The relationship between Alexis and Yarbrough was marred by domestic disputes. On January 1st, 2023, the situation escalated fatally. After visiting her mother and spending time with friends in Huntsville, Alexis was driven back home by Yarbrough. An argument ensued, culminating in Yarbrough allegedly shooting Alexis multiple times in front of their children. Her mother recounted that Alexis was protecting her 3-year-old daughter before being shot 5 times. This tragedy underscores significant systemic failures. Yarbrough's early release, despite his violent history, raises critical questions about the justice system's role in protecting individuals from known offenders. Moreover, Alexis's death highlights the dangers victims face when attempting to leave abusive relationships and the inadequacies of current protective measures. In 2019, Alexis entered a relationship with Kaiwan Yarbrough, then 16 years old. Their relationship soon became tumultuous, with signs of escalating domestic violence. Yarbrough's criminal history further complicated matters. On December 5th, 2019, he was convicted as a youthful offender for a shooting incident involving 3 juveniles. He received a 36-month suspended sentence and 24 months of probation. However, during his probation, Yarbrough committed new criminal offenses on 2 separate occasions, leading to the revocation of his probation and an order to serve the remainder of his sentence in a state penitentiary, set to end in May 2023. Despite this, he was granted a mandatory release by the Alabama Department of Corrections on December 2nd, 2022, allowing him to return to Athens under supervision. Aware of the dangers posed by Yarbrough, Alexis confided in family and friends about her plans to leave the abusive relationship. On January 1st, 2023, after spending time with her mother and friends, Alexis returned home with Yarbrough. A domestic dispute ensued, culminating in Yarbrough allegedly shooting Alexis multiple times in front of their children. Tragically, Alexis was shielding her 3-year-old daughter at the time of the shooting. In response to this preventable tragedy, Alexis's family advocates for greater awareness of domestic violence and the need for comprehensive support systems to protect those attempting to escape abusive situations. They emphasize the critical importance of robust protective measures and systemic reforms to safeguard individuals from similar fates. Alexis Garth's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers victims face when attempting to leave abusive relationships and the systemic shortcomings that can endanger them. Her life and untimely death underscore the urgent need for systemic reforms to protect individuals from domestic violence. In the early hours of January 1st, 2023, the city of Athens, Alabama, was shaken by a tragedy that left a young mother dead and a community grappling with profound questions. How could a woman so full of life meet such a violent end? What systemic failures allowed this to happen? However, behind the facade of a promising life lay a tumultuous relationship with 20-year-old Kaiwan Yarbrough. Their relationship, which began with hope, soon revealed troubling signs of domestic abuse. Family members noted escalating tensions, with Alexis expressing intentions to leave the relationship in search of safety for herself and her daughters. On the night of December 31st, 2022, Alexis visited her mother before heading to Huntsville to spend time with friends. Yarbrough later insisted on driving her back to their home. A domestic dispute ensued, escalating to a tragic climax. According to family accounts, Alexis was on the phone with her sister, pleading for help, when Yarbrough allegedly shot her multiple times in front of their children. Her 3-year-old daughter, in a desperate bid for safety, hid under a car in the driveway. Alexis succumbed to her injuries, her life cut short in a moment of unimaginable violence. Kaiwan Yarbrough was arrested at the scene and charged with capital murder. He is currently being held without bond in the Limestone County Jail. This tragic event underscores the dangers of domestic violence and the critical importance of support systems for individuals attempting to leave abusive relationships. Alexis's family hopes that her story will raise awareness and prevent similar tragedies in the future. Alexis's life took a dark turn when she became involved with Kaiwan Yarbrough. Their relationship, initially filled with promise, soon revealed troubling signs. Friends and family noticed instances of domestic disputes, with Alexis confiding about escalating tensions and episodes of abuse. Kaiwan Yarbrough's past was marred by violence. On December 5, 2019, he was convicted as a youthful offender for a shooting incident involving 3 juveniles. He received a 36-month suspended sentence and 24 months of probation. However, during his probation, he committed new criminal offenses, leading to the revocation of his probation and subsequent incarceration. Despite a scheduled release in May 2023, Yarbrough was granted a mandatory release by the Alabama Department of Corrections on December 2, 2022, allowing him to return to Athens under supervision. Aware of the danger she faced, Alexis devised a plan to escape the abusive relationship. She confided in close friends and family about her intentions, expressing hope for a safer future for herself and her daughters. However, systemic shortcomings failed to provide her with the necessary protection. Alexis Garth's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in abusive relationships and the pressing need for systemic reforms. Her family is now advocating for greater awareness and support for domestic violence victims, hoping that her untimely death will lead to meaningful change and prevent similar tragedies in the future. As the community mourns, the question remains: how many more lives must be lost before effective measures are implemented to protect those most vulnerable? Alexis and Kaiwan had been in a relationship for over a year, during which they lived together. Over time, their relationship became tumultuous, with increasing instances of domestic disputes. Family members noted that Alexis had been planning to leave Kaiwan due to the escalating abuse. On January 1, 2023, after visiting her mother and spending time with friends in Huntsville, Alexis returned home with Kaiwan. An argument ensued, escalating into violence. In a tragic turn of events, Kaiwan allegedly shot Alexis multiple times in front of their children. Her mother recounted that Alexis was protecting her 3-year-old daughter before being shot 5 times. The community was left in shock. Family and friends gathered to remember Alexis, highlighting her love for her children and her vibrant personality. The incident underscored significant concerns regarding domestic violence and systemic failures. The early release of individuals with violent histories, like Yarbrough, posed significant risks to public safety. In response to this tragedy, Alexis's family is advocating for greater awareness of domestic violence and the systemic issues that can endanger victims. They emphasize the need for comprehensive support systems to protect those attempting to escape abusive situations. In the months leading up to her tragic death, Alexis Garth recognized the escalating danger in her relationship with Kaiwan Yarbrough and took deliberate steps to protect herself and her 2 young daughters. Understanding the critical importance of a safety plan, Alexis began by confiding in trusted family members and close friends about the abuse she was enduring. This network provided her with emotional support and practical advice, reinforcing her resolve to leave the toxic relationship. Alexis meticulously planned her departure, aiming to minimize risk and ensure the safety of her children. She researched resources available to domestic violence victims in Athens, Alabama, and considered reaching out to local shelters and support groups. Her preparations included gathering essential documents, setting aside emergency funds, and identifying safe locations where she and her daughters could seek refuge. Despite her careful planning, Alexis faced significant challenges. The systemic failures that allowed Yarbrough's early release from prison exacerbated the threat he posed. On January 1, 2023, just as Alexis was on the verge of implementing her escape plan, Yarbrough's violence culminated in a fatal confrontation, underscoring the unpredictable and perilous nature of leaving an abusive partner. Alexis's story highlights the critical importance of comprehensive safety planning and the need for systemic reforms to protect individuals attempting to escape abusive relationships. It also emphasizes the vital role of supportive networks and accessible resources in empowering victims to make the courageous decision to leave. On January 1st, 2023, the city of Athens, Alabama, was shaken by a tragic incident that underscored the perils of domestic violence and highlighted systemic shortcomings in protecting vulnerable individuals. The victim, 26-year-old Alexis Garth, was a beloved mother of 2 young daughters, aged 3 years and 8 months. Known for her radiant smile and kind demeanor, Alexis had recently purchased a new home in Athens, symbolizing a fresh start for her family. The events leading to her untimely death began on New Year's Day. Alexis spent part of the day visiting her mother before heading to Huntsville to enjoy time with friends. Later, her partner, 20-year-old Kaiwan Yarbrough, insisted on driving her back to their residence. What transpired next remains a somber testament to the dangers inherent in abusive relationships. In the early hours of January 1st, Athens Police Department officers responded to a domestic violence-related shooting in the 22,000 block of Oakdale Ridge Lane. Upon arrival, they discovered Alexis lying in the driveway, having sustained multiple gunshot wounds. Despite immediate medical attention and transportation to Huntsville Hospital, she succumbed to her injuries a few hours later. Authorities detained Kaiwan Yarbrough at the scene, subsequently charging him with capital murder. This charge was later upheld by a Limestone County grand jury indictment. Further investigation revealed that Alexis had been shielding her 3-year-old daughter during the altercation, highlighting her maternal instinct even in her final moments. The exact catalyst for the dispute remains unclear, but the incident underscores the unpredictable and often escalating nature of domestic violence. Kaiwan Yarbrough's background added another layer of complexity to the tragedy. In 2019, at the age of 16, he was involved in a shooting incident where he fired at 3 juveniles following a confrontation. This led to a conviction as a youthful offender, resulting in a 36-month suspended sentence and 24 months of probation. However, subsequent offenses led to the revocation of his probation, and he was incarcerated with a release date set for May 2023. Despite this, Yarbrough was granted a mandatory release by the Alabama Department of Corrections on December 2, 2022, just a month before the fatal incident involving Alexis. This sequence of events has prompted critical discussions about the effectiveness of the justice system, particularly concerning the early release of individuals with violent histories. Alexis's family, in their grief, has become vocal advocates for greater awareness of domestic violence and the systemic reforms needed to protect potential victims. They emphasize the importance of comprehensive support systems and the need for vigilance in monitoring individuals with known violent tendencies. The circumstances surrounding Alexis's death have led to scrutiny of the justice system's role in her alleged killer's early release. Kaiwan Yarbrough, 20, had a prior conviction for a 2019 shooting incident involving 3 juveniles. Initially sentenced to a 36-month suspended sentence and 24 months of probation, his probation was revoked due to new offenses, leading to his incarceration. Despite a scheduled release in May 2023, Yarbrough was granted a mandatory release on December 2, 2022, by the Alabama Department of Corrections. This early release has raised concerns about the effectiveness of protective measures for domestic violence victims. Advocates argue that the system failed to safeguard Alexis, allowing a potentially dangerous individual back into the community without adequate supervision. The case underscores the need for comprehensive reforms to ensure that victims of domestic violence receive the protection they need and that offenders are appropriately monitored upon release. Details about how Alexis and Kaiwan met and began their relationship are scarce. However, it is known that their relationship was marred by domestic disputes and signs of escalating violence. Kaiwan had a history of criminal behavior. In 2019, he was convicted as a youthful offender for a shooting incident involving 3 juveniles. He received a 36-month suspended sentence and 24 months of probation. His probation was later revoked due to new criminal offenses, leading to his incarceration. Despite a scheduled release in May 2023, he was granted a mandatory release on December 2, 2022, by the Alabama Department of Corrections. Alexis had confided in her mother about her intentions to leave the abusive relationship. She had plans to escape and was seeking safety for herself and her children. Tragically, the system did not provide adequate protection. On the evening of December 31st, 2022, Alexis visited her mother and then went to Huntsville to spend time with friends. Kaiwan insisted on driving her back to their home. A domestic dispute escalated, leading to Kaiwan allegedly shooting Alexis multiple times in front of their children. Alexis's death highlights significant systemic failures in addressing domestic violence. Despite her efforts to seek safety, the existing support systems failed to protect her. This tragedy underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to safeguard individuals attempting to escape abusive situations. Advocacy for systemic reforms is crucial to protect individuals from domestic violence. This includes implementing comprehensive support systems for those attempting to escape abusive situations and ensuring that early release decisions consider the safety of potential victims. The tragic loss of Alexis Garth serves as a stark reminder of the work that remains to be done to prevent such preventable tragedies. In the aftermath, Alexis's family has turned their grief into advocacy, emphasizing the need for comprehensive support systems for those attempting to escape abusive situations. They stress the importance of systemic reforms to safeguard individuals from domestic violence, ensuring that no other family has to endure such a preventable loss. The story of Alexis Garth serves as a poignant reminder of the critical importance of robust protective measures and systemic reforms to prevent such tragedies in the future. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.